In the prestigious detective academy, Blue, there was a genius named Ron Kamonohashi, a prodigy with a future as bright as the sun. Sadly, he gets expelled from Blue due to a practical exercise where all his pursued suspects met their end. Ron finds himself not only kicked out but also permanently banned from getting a detective license. Fast forward 5 years, and the super smart detective Ron is living a life of disappointment and monotony. However, his life takes an unexpected turn as Detective Totomaru from Tokyo Police Department knocks on his door, seeking help with a serial murder case. Ron gives his nod, and his detective brilliance takes the stage. Employing his inherited genius, he effortlessly cracks the case. But before we go deep into this tale, be the hero we need. Hit that subscribe button, sprinkle some love with likes, and drop us a comment. The tale begins in the 1st Investigative Division of Metropolitan Police Department. During a briefing, Amamiya learns about the discovery of a 5th victim in the recent serial killings. She orders everyone to broaden the investigation's scope. Looking down upon Totomaru, Amamiya instructs him to go home, seeing him as incompetent and a hindrance. Saddened, Toto chooses to seek out Kiku from the General Affairs Division instead of heading home. Kiku informs Toto that he needs results, or Toto will soon be kicked out of the investigative division. He reminds Toto of past mishaps, like letting culprits escape and questioning people in a residential area at 3 a.m. While Kiku appreciates Toto's straightforwardness and disregard for consequences, he believes Toto is unsuited for detective work. Despite this, Toto can't stand having his hands tied while a serial killer is on the loose. Kiku then refers Toto to a sleuth he thinks is the only person capable of solving the case. He hands Toto an old photo, describes the detective's slick personality, and sends him to the Mason du Kamonohashi. There, Toto goes to the manager's office. He is about to ring the bell when a voice from the apartment tells him to do it yourself and go and pray at the shrine again. Only when Totomaru mentions that Kiku sent him does the door open and the detective appears. Totomaru notes that he, Ron Kamonohashi, looks quite different compared to his photo. Ron asks Toto whether he is only satisfied if he says his thoughts out loud before he goes back inside. Toto apologizes and follows him into the flat. He nearly steps on Ron's cat, and after Ron confirms that it is only sleeping and that Kiku gave it to him, Totomaru asks how he and Kiku know each other. Ron explains that he knows Kiku because he used to go to the same school as his son, and then throws himself onto his cushioned floor of indolence. Ron continues that he completely cut himself off from the outside world out of despair, hence, he has his blinds closed and he has neither a TV nor internet access. He is only a mere hunk of junk, frozen in time. And it would be better if Totomaru left and gave Kiku his regards. Totomaru is unwilling to leave just now though. After all, he has not even told Ron the reason for his visit yet. When he is about to give it, Ron cuts him off and says that Kiku sent him young officers before. They all hope to partner up with Ron to get promotions. Ron turned them all down after knocking them down a peg. Nevertheless, Kiku keeps on going because he wants Ron to make a comeback, although he knows that Ron does not sleuth anymore. His words surprise Toto, as Kiku sent him to Ron to get help in a murder case. He wants to tell Ron about it, but Ron yells and says that he does not want to hear anything about any cases. Annoyed, Totomaru turns to go. However, when Ron encourages him to seek out a shrine again, he stops and inquires how Ron knew about his shrine visit. Ron explains that he could have only gotten pollen on his shoulder on the path to the Wakana shrine. Further, the unopened canned coffee in his left pocket and the jingling coins in his right one indicate that he brought the can to get change to make an offering. After Toto unconsciously voices out loud his amazement that someone so boorish and bratty can make such a brilliant deduction, Ron points out that this habit is a sign of over-reliance on others. That Totomaru walked down the center of the shrine path also reveals that he was raised in a refined environment, presumably by his grandparents. Ron also deduces that Totomaru most likely came to him to prevent being transferred to another department due to his incompetence. Toto confirms this, though insists this only covers 30% of his reason. Realizing that Ron could solve the mystery, Toto tries to persuade him to help, but Ron resists and even puts on earplugs. Just when Toto tries to remove the plugs, Amamiya calls him. Out of anger, Ron slaps the phone out of his hand, but his action puts it on speakerphone, and he hears Amamiya tell Toto about the discovery of a 6th corpse in Kazuhana Park. Because Toto is currently the closest to the crime scene, she orders him to go there. Devastated that he heard about a case, Ron informs Totomaru that he desperately wants to sleuth. Unfortunately, he has a fatal flaw that prevents him from doing detective work. For that reason, he has been living like a hermit. Believing the fatal flaw to be nothing but a simple illness, Totomaru offers to be his support. Ron finally agrees to help but urges him to never let him out of his sight. Together, they hurry to Kazuhana Park, which leaves Toto out of breath and Ron unfazed as he works out daily. A police officer leads them to the victim, Akamasa, a private investment broker. Shockingly, Ron throws himself next to Akamasa and swears to avenge him before he examines the body. Ron deduces the victim drowned and handed over his valuables without resistance. Toto informs Ron that it was the same with the previous 5 victims. None of the victims have anything in common besides being men though. He then hands Ron a map showing where each body was found. Considering where they were found, a limited area where they must have encountered the murderer can be discerned. However, there are no places where someone could drown grown men in that area. When Ron learns that, he immediately solves the case. Glad that his deductive ability has not become rusty, Ron excitedly jumps to his feet. He tells Totomaru that he figured out who the killer is, and that he decided to call him Toto from now on, as he thinks his name is too long. Before they arrest the culprit though, they have to go shopping first. Using Toto's money, Ron buys tasteless designer clothes and makes Toto wear them to make him look rich. Afterward, Ron leads Toto to a barber shop to get his hair cut and urges him that he cannot fall asleep in there, even if he is running low on sleep. While Ron waits outside, drinking brown sugar syrup, Toto enters the shop. He tells the barber that he is good with stocks before he is told to lean forward to get his hair washed. As soon as Totomaru becomes still, the barber begins to drown him. Before he succeeds though, Ron barges in and exposes the barber as the serial killer. A moment later, Toto, who was instructed to hold his breath for a minute during the shampoo, takes his head out of the water and demands to know what is going on. Ron explains that the barber was about to drown him. The barber filled the sink with oxygen-deficient air to make his victims pass out and easy to rob and kill. Ron realized that a barber must be the culprit because, although all victims were heading to events that required them to look good, they either had longish hair or undyed roots. This means they died after visiting a barber, one that is in the area, accepts walk-ins, and has easy access to dry ice to create carbon dioxide. Only this shop fulfills all criteria. Furthermore, a barber always talks with their customers and would, thus, know if they are rich or told someone of their barber visit. Ron then reveals that he recorded everything with Totomaru's phone, prompting the barber to escape via the roof. However, Ron locked the gate there beforehand, and he and Toto can corner the barber on the roof. Upon Toto's inquiry, the barber confesses that he killed the 6 men for their money because, in the past, rich people tricked him into investing in their stock, and he ended up with a huge debt because of that. Upon hearing the confession, Ron unknowingly pressures him to jump, and the barber complies and climbs over the fence. Totomaru immediately hurries to save the barber when he jumps. Right afterward, Ron wakes up and asks where the culprit is. Toto tells him that he jumped, and Ron believes he killed someone again until Toto yells at him to help him. After all, he managed to grab the barber, but can neither pull him up nor hold him much longer. Ron is stunned to learn that the culprit is alive. After he concludes that, because Toto is such a pure, naive fool, his body must react faster than his mind. He then saves Totomaru and the barber with bungee ropes just when they are about to fall. While they are hanging from the roof, Ron tells Totomaru that he has changed his opinion of him and that his actions sparked an idea in him. On the ground, Kiku smiles as he watches Ron and Toto's accomplishment. Later at Ron's flat, Totomaru cannot believe that Ron did not tell him that his fatal flaw is a sickness that makes him compel others into committing suicide. Ron stresses that he has no control over this strange ability and never even remembers using it. Because of it, his case resolution rate was 100% and his arrest rate 0%, and he was banned from doing detective work. Toto, however, managed to break his disgraceful streak. Kiku must have sent Totomaru to him because Ron needs a pure, naive fool as his partner, not someone talented. Ron tells Totomaru that he should bring him all his cases from now on. He will solve them for him and turn him into a famous detective. Toto heads to Ron's apartment to see how he is doing. Ron swings the door open before Toto even knocks, eager to know if there's a new case. However, disappointment hits him, and he slumps onto the padded floor when Toto mentions there's no such case. Itching to solve more cases and nurture his inner detective, Ron outlines his plan to team up with Toto, positioning Toto as his puppet to carry out instructions for solving cases. Toto informs Ron that his boss, Amamiya, is the one who assigns cases, showing Ron a photo of her on his phone that was taken by a coworker. At the police department, another murder case has been found, but Amamiya gives Toto a different assignment, which is identified as a rubbish case that does not belong in the first division. Toto expects Ron to be uninterested in the case about coins missing from a piggy bank, but Ron is quick to put on a disguise and immediately sets out with Toto to investigate. The two go to the home of the girl who made the report about the piggy bank. Ron immediately examines a large pink suitcase expecting this to be the piggy bank, but the girl identifies this as belonging to her older sister who recently returned from visiting their parents. The girl shows them her yellow piggy bank, which is known for being completely impossible to remove coins from. She states that it was previously very heavy and is now noticeably lighter. Ron's fake mustache becomes caught on the sisters' jewelry, and they find this odd that nothing else was stolen. The girl says that she has been getting a lot of silent phone calls lately, which has caused her to ensure that the home is tightly locked. Ron says that he gives up on the case and drinks a package of liquid brown sugar. They decide to break the piggy bank open and take the coins to be sent for fingerprinting. Curiously, the younger sister's fingerprints are not found on any of the coins, appearing to confirm that the piggy bank was replaced with one that had fewer coins. Ron finds his way to the crime scene of the murder that Amamiya is investigating and lies down next to the corpse, promising to avenge him. Toto follows after Ron and presents a report to Amamiya about their conclusion of the piggy bank case, identifying the girl's older sister as the culprit. They believe that she broke the piggy bank, took coins out, and replaced it with a replica piggy bank. Toto goes further to identify the older sister as the murderer, describing how she must have encountered the man who was stalking her, used the piggy bank to hit him on the head in self-defense, and later placed other coins in a new piggy bank. She then used the large suitcase to transport his corpse to the riverbank. The older sister confesses that this is the truth, and Ron's kill on sight is activated, telling her that she should drown herself as she has no right to live in the world. She becomes hypnotized by this and runs to the river, continuing to run after Amamiya tackles her. Toto jumps into the river to save her. Ron later wakes up and realizes what happened, grateful to Toto for having saved the girl. At the police department, Amamiya explains to Toto further conclusions of the case, including fragments of the broken piggy bank found in the dead man's scalp and his fingerprint found in the house. Amamiya verbally reprimands Toto for his breaks in protocol regarding the case, but is also curious to know about the man whom Toto brought with him. Toto identifies Ron as Kamo, and Amamiya repeats this name in an amorous way. Toto goes to Ron's apartment, and again, Ron opens the door before Toto rings, excited to learn if there is another case to be solved. Toto reflects to himself that Ron is an odd duck, but he is interested in continuing to work with him. Ron calls this a special day as a puppet has been born. Meanwhile, in a faculty meeting at Blue Academy, Ron, identified as having been from Class 87, becomes the subject of discussion. He is suspected of resuming detective work in Japan, leading the headmistress to order an investigation, with Spitfire being the one to take on this task. Meanwhile, during a faculty meeting at Blue Academy, headmistress Amy instructs an investigation into Ron Kamonohashi to verify the report of his involvement in sleuthing activities. She emphasizes that the investigation is solely to uncover the truth, without outlining any consequences if the report is confirmed. Spitz steps forward to undertake the investigation and is dispatched to Japan. Meanwhile, in Japan, Ron asks Toto to come with him to the store to buy cat food because he's short on money. After Toto pays, Ron gets a raffle ticket and ends up winning the grand prize, a couple's package for a weekend trip to the Benizome Hot Springs. Toto panics a bit when the clerk refers to them as a couple. Ron suggests going alone twice, but the trip dates can't be changed, so Toto agrees to go with him. Driving to the hot springs, they learn that they will not be staying at the main building, but will instead be staying at the annex, which is in a state of disrepair. Ron comments that it looks like the building was hit by a typhoon. There, they are greeted by a couple as well as Spitz pretending to work there. Ron and Toto go to the men's bath, where Ron tells Toto about a legend he read in the pamphlet they received from their taxi driver, that the hot springs received its name after a girl was sacrificed in the river, and her blood dyed the spring water red. Toto observes the scar on Ron's neck, which he mistakes for a tattoo. Ron tells he was once covered in wounds, but the only injury that left a scar was the one on his neck. Ron states that he likes the scar since it includes the number 6, which is a lucky number for him. For dinner, Ron eats a dish of rice covered in brown sugar syrup that Toto considers to be slime. Ron states that the syrup is the source of his brain power, and that he also consumes black sesame paste to prevent anemia. Afterward, Ron and Toto play ping pong, with Ron claiming that the loser of the game will become a slave to the winner. Upon losing the lone ping pong ball, they search outside, but are unable to find it, and so they return to the men's bath to warm themselves up. Shortly after, a drunk Amamiya enters the men's bath naked and screams upon realizing her mistake. They learn that she came because she won second prize at the raffle. Drunk and weepy, she goes to bed around 10 p.m. That night, Toto and Ron play the game of life with the couple until 2 a.m. The next morning, a staff member discovers a corpse in the women's bath, which is covered with red leaves. The body is that of Sachiko, who went to the bath alone at around 10 p.m. Amamiya examines the corpse and determines that she must have died between midnight and 2 a.m. based on the degree of rigor mortis. Suspicion immediately falls on Amamiya because she is the only one without an alibi during that time. But Ron declares that Amamiya is innocent and that he can prove it. Spitz, the instructor from Blue, sees this as his chance to catch Ron, but Ron immediately says that that is what Toto would say to solve the case. Spitz and Toto are both stunned. Ron borrows from Toto's reactions, adds his own deductions, and presents the analysis as if he is speaking on behalf of Toto. He says that Toto has already deduced that the murder was modeled after the Benizome legend, and that the secret story of the Benizome and the red water are the keys to finding the culprit. Ron goes ahead to explain that since Amamiya did not see the pamphlet with the story on, she could not have replicated it. The woman with a blonde bob retorts that when she was heading to her room after dinner the previous night, she spotted a white mist emanating from the river. Ron calls Toto over at the riverside to show that he has finally located the ping pong ball. As Ron is figuring out a way to extract the ball, they spot a bath mat adjacent to the river. Amamiya comes to offer her thanks to Toto, but she is unable to fully say it out loud. She assigns Toto as the lead for the investigation since she is still a suspect. Toto is surprised and goes to offer his thanks, to which Amamiya fires back saying she is only doing so because no one else is around. She mutters that she has had a string of bad luck since yesterday from the moment she walked into the wrong bathhouse. The police arrive at the scene and investigation is underway. Ron heads to his room and Spitz follows him shortly after and spies on him from the next room. But Ron does not move in his room. Toto comes back to the room and informs that the woman died due to a heart failure. Her husband had mentioned that she had a heart condition. She would often have fits. Ron slams on the wall, which the Spitz is listening from. Toto proceeds to say that the temperature difference caused the heart failure. Shortly after, everyone once again gathers at the crime scene. Once there, Toto proceeds to solve the case. He says it was a murder and that the culprit is among those present. Toto says that the husband killed her, but he protests in denial. Toto says that while the husband was in the lounge to set up an alibi, he had already set a trap for his wife. He placed the bath mat over a pit in such a manner that she would fall. She had poor vision and could not see well without her glasses. When Amamiya points out that perhaps that fall was not enough for the thermal shock, Toto says it could be the case that the bath was filled with freezing cold water. Toto then shows a hollow bamboo pipe. He explains that there was a slight elevation difference in the river and the bath. The husband used that bamboo pipe to direct the flow of the hot and cold water. That steam that the guests saw the previous night was the effect of the hot water hitting the cold river water. Toto then further adds that since the fallen leaves were less in number, the husband must have procured more to cover his tracks and mislead everyone into thinking it was the curse. The husband protests, saying it is not possible for a man to sneak into a woman's bath. Toto explains that when the husband heard that the men would be playing ping pong, he took the chance to swap the bath curtains so that he could prepare his trap undetected. This is why Amamiya ended up at the men's bath. When the husband protests more, Toto says that the husband's fingerprints would still be present on the curtain rods. The husband accepts defeat. He apologizes to Michio Aka, the woman with short blonde hair. It turns out the husband and Michio were having an affair, and Toto is agitated. As a result, the husband is arrested. Toto looks around to find Ron and follows a figure into the woods thinking it is him. Turns out the figure was the Spitz. Ron is tied up to a tree, and the instructor introduces himself as Spitz, a tracking instructor at Blue. Ron says that he has his eyes on Spitz since the moment he won the raffle. He also says that the case was solved by Toto, but Spitz contradicts, saying that Toto is a fool who did not even notice him. Ron asks for proof of Spitz's claims and also goes to call Spitz incompetent in his profession. Toto urges Ron to not anger Spitz. Spitz says that if Ron agrees to sleuthing, he could ask for a lighter sentence. Ron questions Spitz if he has the authority to do so, going on to explain how there is more to Spitz's story than what he is letting on. Ron presents three possibilities: that either Spitz has made a bet, has been threatened, or is in need of Ron's ability. Spitz accepts defeat and offers Ron a job. He says that he got into Blue with the objective of finding the best detective to find his missing family. Ron rejects the job, saying that he cannot trust Spitz. Spitz offers to earn Ron's trust by helping him and Toto in the cases henceforth. When Ron asks for more, Spitz offers a happy coat. Toto asks Ron to consider Spitz's offer. Spitz thanks Toto and applauds his deduction in the earlier case. Ron says that despite Spitz's gratitude, he cannot trust him. If Spitz betrays Ron, he would be done for. But even then he is ready to wait and see because Toto thinks Spitz is a good guy. Toto asks if Ron has any plan, and Ron replies that he does. He plans to use Spitz and his skills until Spitz drops. Toto thinks to himself that Ron would never abandon anyone in trouble. Toto thanks Ron for helping Amamiya. Ron says that he was merely doing his duty. Meanwhile, in a dark apartment building, a man in a white sleeveless hoodie opens a fridge door lined with beer cans and smirks. That was it from today's recap. To find out what happens in the next case of Ron and Toto, don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for more exciting updates. Thanks for watching.